The cold touched him before the light did. It slipped through layers of fur and hide, crept along his spine, and settled deep in his bones. Even in sleep, it was never absent. In this world, the cold was not an event. It was a presence. It waited, it watched, and it punished anything that forgot it was there. His eyes opened slowly. The cave was dim, lit only by the faint red glow beneath a mound of ash. The fire still lived. That alone meant the night had failed to kill them. He shifted closer to the embers, careful not to wake the others. Bodies lay packed tightly together, children between adults, elders closest to the warmth. Breath rose and fell in pale clouds. No one slept alone. Here, warmth was shared or not had at all. Outside the cave mouth, the wind screamed across the open land. Snow swept endlessly over frozen ground, reshaping the world one grain at a time. The sky was pale and empty, stretched wide above a land stripped bare by cold. Trees were few and twisted, bent low as if trying to crawl away from a wind. This was not a land of shelter. It was a land that tested everything that dared to live upon it. When the sun finally rose, it brought no comfort, only light, weak and distant, like a fire seen from far away. The ice did not retreat for it. The cold did not soften. Day and night differed only in brightness. Far beyond the horizon, immense walls of ice moved slowly across the earth. Glaciers taller than mountains ground valleys into dust, swallowing rivers, reshaping land without sound or mercy. They advanced so slowly they seemed eternal, yet everyone knew they were never still. He pulled his clothing tighter around himself. The hides were carefully shaped, stitched with sinew using needles carved from bone. Reindeer fur lay against his skin, trapping warmth. Over it, heavier pelts, bison and wolf, formed a barrier against wind and snow. Every seam had purpose. Every layer had been learned through loss. Today was a hunting day. Not everyone would go. Some would remain behind to tend the fire, to scrape hides, to repair tools, to watch the children. Survival here did not belong to the strongest alone. It belonged to those who understood balance. They prepared in silence. Stone struck stone, sending sharp flakes spinning away. Each strike was measured. Flint shattered cleanly when treated with patience, producing edges sharper than teeth, sharper than bone. A single mistake could ruin hours of work. Spears were checked, points tightened, shafts tested for balance. Some hunters carried long, thrusting spears. Others carried throwing sticks, carefully shaped pieces of wood that extended the arm and turned a spear into something that could fly farther, strike harder. They moved out together. The wind cut into exposed skin. Breath burned the lungs. The land stretched endlessly before them, flat, white, and unforgiving. Snow hid stones and holes and danger alike. Tracks were the only language written upon it. Reindeer, fresh, close. The hunters lowered themselves against the wind, moving slowly, carefully. Sound traveled far in the cold. Smell traveled farther. The wind favored them now, but it could betray them without warning. The herd appeared as dark shapes against the white, heads low, breath rising like smoke. The hunters did not rush. They guided, pressed, steered. The land itself became part of the hunt. Ice, rock, slope, every feature remembered, taught by elders who had hunted here before. A reindeer stumbled. The moment broke open. Spears flew. Wood flexed. Stones struck flesh. The animal collapsed, legs folding beneath it, blood spreading across the snow in dark, steaming patterns. Its breath came fast, then slowed, then stopped. There was no celebration, only work. Hands moved quickly, efficiently. The cold waited for no one. The body was opened. Organs removed first, eaten warm, rich with fat and strength. Meat was cut and packed. Fat was prized above all else. It fed the fire inside the body when nothing else could. Bones would be cracked for marrow, shaped into tools, burned when wood was scarce. Sinew would become thread. Hide would become clothing, shelter, life. Nothing was wasted. Waste meant death. By the time they returned, the sky had already begun to darken. Daylight was brief in this age. The fire was fed with wood and bone. Meat was shared. Children watched silently, learning without instruction. Here, knowledge was not explained. It was absorbed. As night closed in, the fire became the center of the world. Shadows danced along the cave walls, stretching and twisting with the flame. Stories were spoken quietly, not to entertain, but to remember. Which valleys flooded when the ice melted, which plants healed and which killed, which winds meant storms and which meant death. Deeper in the cave, figures lived upon the stone. Bison with heavy shoulders, mammoths with long, curved tusks, horses caught mid-stride. Red ochre and charcoal brought them into being. To paint an animal was to understand it, to remember it, to face it without fear. The cold pressed in again as the fire burned lower. It always did. Fingers stiffened. Old injuries ached. Teeth worn down by years of chewing hide, and sinew throbbed in the night air. Some bore scars from frostbite. Others carried bones that had once broken and healed crooked, proof that they had survived things meant to kill them. The greatest fear was not the darkness. It was silence. When birds did not return, when herds passed farther away each year, when the ice crept closer without pause. They felt the change, even if they could not name it. Some winters were harsher, some summers shorter, some groups never returned. The land remembered them, even when no one else did. He lay down near the fire, wrapped tightly in fur, listening to the wind carve its endless paths across the frozen world. He did not know the ice would one day retreat. He did not know forests would return, or seas would rise and swallow the lands he walked. He knew only this day, the cold, the fire, the people beside him, and the quiet truth that surviving one more night was enough. Because in the last ice age, survival was not heroic. It was human.